Chip, I think Chip stepped on the keyboard. That's fun. Hi, welcome back to Housebar's Mega Worldwide. My cat stepped on the keyboard, or it was the Russians. Dun, dun, dun. You have been sent by the Russian Federation to subvert my show. What are you doing? What have you done? Terrible. You are enemy of the state. You have attempted to destroy my show for the last time, you evil kitty. Yeah, he put his foot on the keyboard, and I think that's what shut it off. Thanks, buddy. That's fun. Hi, welcome back. He still wants to climb up. He's rubbing against my leg. Hi, buddy. Yes, I know you want pets right now, but you got to go. Cause hold on. Hold on 1 second. This is not right. Hold on. We got moment of cat business. Give me a second. Chip-a-doodle. Come here, buddy. Come here. No, you can't be under there. Step one stuff. I'm giving you kisses, and you're purring, and it's very sweet, and I adore you. But beat it. Go upstairs. Go on. Nope. Okay, here we go. We're back. Hold on in 1 second. Chip he was enjoying the love, and then that happened. Hold on. We're back in 1 second. 3, 2, 1. Hi. Yeah, Chip put his foot on the keyboard when he was stepping over, and I think that's what turned it off. That's my guess, anyways. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That's so funny. Okay, so welcome back. Hi, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Look, I'm automatically resetting. It's true. Good times. There we go. Chip is banned. Yay! Start over. Yay! How are you? Like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up. Luis says Chip is a Russian in disguise. Super chat. Liberal Dan. Hey, how are you? Frosty, thank you so much. She says, they say, chatters, start your engines. Deborah, thank you for the super chat as well from this morning. I didn't see that at the tail end of the show. All right, now let's get back to where we were. Something about because Vladimir Putin didn't cause all the internal domestic problems, he's not a foreign threat. This is the argument. Hey, guess what, fucko? At no point has China tried to teach me that I'm racist, necessarily. Oh, by the way, I take it back. Yes, they have. And by the way, so has Russia. As a matter of fact, Russia has been using asymmetrical warfare against the United States for fucking years now. And a lot of the political divide that we are dealing with in the United States is caused by fake Facebook groups and false websites and stories planted in social media and the like, fomenting discord throughout the whole country. As a matter of fact, they were funneling a shit ton of money into these trucker convoys. Yeah. And then they write little emails like, you should probably bring guns. It's me, Gary from Ohio. But you guys probably think that's the FBI causing this.
Vladimir Putin didn't do any of that.
No.
So why does permanent Washington hate him so much?
Permanent Washington. Permanent Washington. I don't know. Ask me that question again when Vladimir Putin is not trying to make himself permanent Moscow.
If you've been watching the news, you know that Putin is having a border dispute with a nation called Ukraine. Now, the main thing to know about Ukraine for our purposes is that its leaders once sent millions of dollars to Joe Biden's family. Not surprisingly, Ukraine is now one of Biden's favorite countries.
It's also one of the most important geopolitical countries between Russia and the West and Europe's energy needs.
He has pledged to defend Ukraine's borders even as he opens our borders to the world. That's how it works.
No, the only place you're going to hear that our borders are open is on Fox News. Everyone else knows that they are not open.
Invading America is called equity. Invading Ukraine is a war crime. So with every day we move.
By the way, Mexican, Honduran, and Argentinian, and even Haitian families at the southern border trying to get across to get a job or to live peacefully or safely after leaving, countries torn apart by gang violence or drug violence or just a lack of resources. That's the same, to Tucker Carlson, as parking 190,000 troops on three sides of a country.
Closer to some kind of conflict with Russia, a conflict that could easily spin out of control.
Well, then I think Russia should probably stop. If it could easily spin out of control, whose control is it? Because what the argument here is that it will spin out of someone's control. Well, currently, who's controlling it? Putin. And so what's the argument? To keep it from spinning out of control, you should just leave it under the control of Vladimir Putin. That's right. Ukraine, a free and sovereign country, should just be allowed to be invaded by Russia. Just taken.
The people running this have no fine motor skills. The administration assures us this has nothing at all to do with repaying Joe Biden's personal debts to Ukrainian oligarchs.
Because there are none.
At all. It's completely and totally unrelated. The point here is to defend democracy. Not that Ukraine is a democracy. It is not a democracy. Ukraine's president has arrested his main political opponent. He has shut down newspapers and television stations that have dared to...
Because after the Euromaidan, the Russian sock puppets that were put into that country to try and undermine it have failed because they were actively trying to destroy the country from within and hand it to Russia. It wasn't just like the Democrats of Ukraine arrested the Republicans of Ukraine.
Him. So in American terms, you would call Ukraine a tyranny. But
would I?
Biden likes Ukraine, so Putin bad, war good. How will this conflict affect you? Will affect you quite a bit, actually.
Look at the graphic there. Oh, that's black, red, and yellow gas is going to go through the fucking roof, and that's okay because I use the brown pump.
Energy prices in the United States are about to go way up.
Way up.
Means that everything you buy will become much more expensive. From the food you eat, to the car you drive, to tickets you need to take your family on vacation this summer.
So we are going to be able to go on vacation this summer. It's just going to be slightly more expensive. So I guess it's not going to spiral out of control. Because really, who goes vacationing in the middle of World War III? Who wants a nuke tan?
Assuming you can still afford vacation by then.
Well, obviously, anybody can afford vacation in a apocalyptic desert.
To become measurably poor. That's not a guess. Joe Biden has admitted this. On the other hand,
well, no, not that you're going to be measurably poor. That this is a real chance that they could use gas prices to manipulate the American people by shutting off, production in an attempt to make you trade your values for monetary gain. Now, that's something that Tucker Carlson does every fucking day. So, of course, to him, it's business as usual. But he thinks,
we're going to win an important moral victory.
I'm, of course, kidding. He doesn't have any moral values.
Against dastardly old Vladimir Putin, who is much, much worse than Justin Trudeau, just so you know.
Yeah, he is. Because Justin Trudeau doesn't have 8,000 nukes pointed at the United States.
I feel good about that because, let's see, come to think of it, why would you feel good about that? It seems like a pretty
It seems like you're setting up a straw man and then asking me why I don't want to have sex with a bale of hay.
Deal for you and for the United States. Hunter Biden gets $1 million a year from Ukraine, but you can no longer afford to.
Well, no, from Burisma. And Burisma started out as a corrupt oil and gas company that was undermined entirely by Russian oligarchs. And then they broomed those dudes. And now it's a functioning company, and the money goes to help the people of Ukraine and is a functioning business within Ukraine. So it started out corrupt, and it's not anymore. Money well spent, I would say.
To dinner. That's not a bargain. So what are we missing here?
Well, what are you missing? Lots of brain cells.
Missing is the big picture, and that's why.
Oh, all right. Here it is, guys. The big picture. Here's the big picture. And it starts with Kamala Harris.
Joe Biden has dispatched Kamala Harris to explain that picture to us. Kamala Harris's old job was to open America's border. She did that.
No, she didn't. The borders are not open. Just in case you're watching this and you're like, oh, hey, the border's open, I should go. Don't go.
Her new job is to keep Ukraine's borders closed. Kamala Harris was in Europe the other day to explain the whole thing. She began with a history lesson, letting the European peoples know about their recent past, which she assumes they've forgotten since so few of them speak English. She opened with the traditional salutation, "Listen, guys," because that's the way real historians and statespeople talk. Watch Kamala educate.
It's going to be terrible. She's going to start out. I'm sure these are the first words she said in the country.
Hey, listen, guys. We're talking about the potential for war in Europe. I mean, let's really take a moment to understand the significance of what we're talking about. It's been over 70 years. And through those 70 years, as I mentioned yesterday, there has been peace and security. We are talking about the real possibility of war in Europe.
Listen, guys, you may be...
Yeah, she moved to speak frankly. If, by the way, when Reagan would talk like this occasionally, or he'd be all colloquial, Tucker would, of course, drop to his knees and pull out a funnel. But she says, "Listen, guys," at a press conference, all of a sudden,
Europeans who live in Europe, but you don't fully understand the ramifications of war in Europe. That's your problem. The thing about Europe, you've had peace and security for more than 70 years. Kamala Harris just told the Europeans that. And that, by the way, is true if you don't count the breakup of Yugoslavia, which caused hundreds of thousands of deaths in the 1990s, or the Soviet occupation of half of the landmass.
Well, yeah, that Yugoslavia wasn't traditionally called that part of Europe. That's where Ukraine is connected to the rest of Europe. That's where it aims, not this direction. Because, I mean, you've got other issues with Belarus and Lithuania and shit like that's been going on. Hey, there was just a bunch of noise in Kazakhstan. Why don't you bring that up?
To manage the enslavement of hundreds of millions. But apart from that, Mrs. Lincoln, it's all been peace and security in Europe until now. Now, the Soviets were fine. Vladimir Putin is bad. What do we do about that?
Wait a minute. The Soviets are fine? What?
Kamala Harris explained that too. Watch.
And the allied relationship is such that we have agreed that the deterrence effect of these sanctions is still a meaningful one, especially because, remember also, we still sincerely hope that there is a diplomatic path out of this moment. And within the context then of the fact that that window is still although it is absolutely narrowing, but within the context of a diplomatic path still being open, the deterrence effect, we believe, has merit.
Got that? Take a breath and let it sink in. Here it is again. Quote, "We have agreed that the deterrence effect of these sanctions is still a meaningful one, especially because, remember also, we still sincerely hope that there is a diplomatic path out of this moment, and within the context then of the fact that the window is still open, although it is absolutely narrowing, but within the context of a diplomatic path still being open, the deterrence effect, we believe, has merit." Well, of course it has merit. The only question is, what the hell are you talking about? And the answer
okay, the back and forth gibberish of this part of it is stunning, and you know, points for whoever at Fiverr was paid to do this graphic. You earned both $2.50 twice.
Kamala Harris has no real idea what she's talking about. She can't even point to the direction of what she's talking about. Her mouth opens and predigested chunks of language come tumbling out in no particular
Dude, that's just what happened to you.
order. It's soothing to listen to until you try to understand what it means. As Kamala Harris told.
Is it? So word salad is comforting. It's like, it's not really word salad. It's word mac and cheese. It's a comfort food of gibberish. And it's fun to listen to until you see what it really means. So what does it really mean?
Just last month, quote, "It is time for us to do what we have been doing. And that time is every day." To which we'd respond, "That's right, Ms. Vice President Person. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Learn it, love it, live it. And while you're at it, eat, pray, love."
This is supposed to be like shocking, concise political commentary. Honestly, this dude makes $30 million a year for this bullshit. I'm not saying another thing until someone super chats me $30 million. I'm kidding. The fuck?
You can just imagine Vladimir Putin's reaction to all of this when an aide drops a translated transcript of Kamala Harris's remarks on his desk.
Well, they wouldn't. An aide will not drop a translated transcript on his desk. He doesn't let anyone near him because he's a paranoid psychopath who's afraid of COVID and is living in a bunker and won't even go close to his biggest advisors, much less aides. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. It probably would show up on his weird Dr. Evil screen that he stares at all day.
The Slavic mind is a hall of mirrors. It sees traps at every intersection. Clearly, Kamala Harris must be setting some sort of trap for the Russians here. Her words don't make sense, but she can't possibly be dim and childish. America
That's your job.
is a superpower. It would never put a senile man and an imbecile in charge of the country.
Which, by the way, this is the part where it really starts to sound like an RT segment. Honestly, are Tucker's ratings so bad that the only pump he gets ratings wise is when they air clips of his on RT? Because RT has to pay theoretically to use those clips, right?
On the other hand, maybe so. And by the way, it's not just our country. A few weeks ago, the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, met with his British counterpart, Liz Truss. Lavrov asked Truss if her country recognized Russian sovereignty over Rostov and Voronezh, both of which are actually parts of Russia. So it was a trick question, but Liz Truss, who used to work in sales, had no idea. So she replied that Great Britain would never recognize these regions as Russian, despite the fact they already are Russian. So Liz Truss has no idea what she's talking about either. But here's the thing,
Yeah, but she was she thought he was referencing places within Donetsk and Luhansk. She's not going to go back to a map room, and they're going to go, see these two places? He was talking about these places. Oh, she's like, oh, those are in their place. I was talking about the two places in Ukraine. Yeah, we know. Okay.
embarrassed about that. None of them are embarrassed about that.
Well, I'm not, because I don't live in a monarchy and I'm not a British citizen. But again, tell me something about Trudeau.
Bolton knows a lot. On the other hand, he spent decades weakening America with terrible foreign policy ideas and getting a lot of decent people killed for no good reason at all. So you'd think at this point, if justice were real, John Bolton would be...
By the way, there was talk of giving him a show on your network, and he was a regular guest on your network all the fucking time.
In isolation and shame somewhere, spending his days in atonement. That's what you would do, but that's not what he's doing. No. Here's John...
He doesn't have to, because Fox will have him on
MSNBC, demanding yet another war, this one with a nuclear-armed power. Watch.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do you think that U.S. forces should actually go in to defend Ukraine?
Well, I think it's probably too late for that now, but I would say this. The red line between being a treaty ally of the United States and not being one is significant. But the issue, as in all issues like this, is would a Russian invasion and takeover of Ukraine adversely affect American national security and that of its NATO allies? The answer to that's absolutely yes. We did not act appropriately early. I think we should have had more.
Yes, we should have bombed Russia out of existence in 1994. Right out of, they came out of there like a turtle coming out of its shell. As soon as it sticks its head out, down comes the knife.
American forces in Ukraine, not to fight the Russians.
By the way, there's a reason why my girlfriend and I both, when MSNBC is on and Andrea Mitchell comes on, we're like, next.
But to train with the Ukrainians and to show those Russian generals looking across the border and seeing American flags, I wonder what that means. Biden took that off the table, saying there would be no American forces involved, and he got nothing for it.
So the only problem with Joe Biden's Ukraine policy, says John Bolton, is that it's too weak. Your kids aren't fighting there right now, hunkered down in...
So you're going to give Biden credit for not doing that, I guess.
Or shooting at Putin. Let's try a winter war in Russia. No one's done it before, but we have high hopes.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that. And by the way, it's not Russia. It's Ukraine is a sovereign country.
Alexander Vindman is, in fact, demanding it. Unlike the British Foreign Secretary, Alexander Vindman knows quite a bit about Ukraine. In fact, he was born there. Alexander Vindman believes you have a moral obligation to defend his homeland, and if you don't, you're a murderer. Watch him once again on MSNBC.
I think these folks, these right-wing pundits and the GOP that supports him really, frankly, have blood on their hands, because they're encouraging and enticing this kind of opportunism from Putin. And it's not just kind of plain rhetoric and like you could say something without consequences, like too often happens in the United States. This has real consequences. and people are going to die because of this.
Yeah, they're going to die.
By the way, if you'll notice, we run into this with Dan Bongino a lot, is that he'll say the clip is going to say something and then play the clip, and then it didn't say what he said it was going to say, and then after it's over, he says, see, it said what I said it was going to say. This happens all the fucking time. And Tucker is doing that right now. He's basically taking this personally because Vindman is talking about him. And this isn't just kind of flapping your lips on American television. They're taking this as a provocation, as a green light, effectively saying that Tucker Carlson, when he says shit like this on Fox News, it's representative of half of the electorate. And therefore, half of the electorate is cool with green lighting Putin attacking Ukraine. And that because of that, Putin will factor that into his belief system because these are prominent broadcasters. And prominent broadcasters talking like this is supposedly indicative of a certain element of the mindset. And therefore, he can go, well, only half of America will be against me doing this. And therefore, that adds another check mark into the positives of why I would ultimately go through with this.
So your job is to take up arms in defense of Alexander Vindman's home country, or else...
No. He's not talking about us. He wasn't bringing up us at all. He's saying your job is to not, attempt to provoke or pretend that it's okay because you have problems with the border or gas prices for Russia to use that momentary weakness to attack a sovereign country. Because fuck them. That's what he's not talking about us. He's not talking about people being sent to fight. He's saying you're the reason that people would be sent to fight because you're the one that's basically giving a green light to Vladimir Putin.
Evil.
But also, you're fucking dumb, so you wouldn't know that.
On your hands. And that's effectively our policy. Okay.
No, it isn't.
Alexander Vindman, you got us. It's a compelling argument. We're in. What's this going to cost us to defend the country you were born in? Well, in fact, Joe Biden addressed that question today.
Here's my question, though, before we get to that point, because we haven't actually. What does it cost us for you to back Vladimir Putin in every decision that he makes, acting as if he is somehow an innocent in this, and not being equally critical of his behavior the way you are of the U.S. president, for example? You obviously don't have a problem criticizing foreign leaders. You just shit on Trudeau. You just shit on the prime minister's assistant and the security professionals that work in the British, I guess their foreign services, right? You don't have. It's not like you go, well, I don't attack foreign leaders. I only go after American ones. So you're fine attacking Trudeau for what he's done, when really what he's done is shut off some bank accounts and towed some trucks. But you won't criticize Vladimir Putin, who has ordered the deaths of his opponents and paid for it to be carried out. This isn't even a question. This isn't even like a rumor. That's okay. I think that's what Vindman is talking about, is that Tucker Carlson has no reservations whatsoever in attacking Biden, Harris, Trudeau, the administration, the Boris Johnson and everyone involved. More than likely, we'll get around to France and Germany in this, I don't doubt. But somehow, Vladimir Putin is off limits. He's an innocent in all this. Now, maybe he will. Maybe he's going to come around to go, look, we all know Vladimir Putin's a killer, but we don't want to let him drag us into something. Right? There you go. Perhaps there's another way. If we had smarter leaders, we could outthink the awful and murderous Vladimir Putin with this strategy. And here's my idea. Do you think he's going to get there? I don't think so either.
Hey, defending freedom will have costs for us here at home, Biden said. We need to be honest about it. Really? Biden went on to outline what he called the pain of our sanctions. Watch.
We're implementing full blocking sanctions on two large Russian financial institutions, VEB and their military bank. We're implementing comprehensive sanctions on Russian sovereign debt, That means we've cut off Russia's government from Western financing. It can no longer raise money from the West and cannot trade in its new debt on our markets or European markets either. Starting tomorrow and continuing in the days ahead, we'll also impose sanctions on Russia's elites and their family members. They share in the corrupt gains of the Kremlin policies and should share in the pain as well. And because of Russia's actions, we've worked with Germany to ensure Nord Stream 2 will not, as I promised, will not move forward.
So let's put aside the question of why you would ever want to shut down any energy pipeline anywhere ever.
Ever? I mean, why would you want to shut down, I don't know, Iranian nuclear facilities? Obviously, if they get their energy from nuclear materials, clearly that leaves more oil and gas for the rest of us. You know, why would you ever shut down a pipeline ever, anywhere, for any reason, even if that money, say in Iran, is going to Hamas or fomenting terrorism or any of that reason? Why would you ever want to do that? Secondly, it's not shutting it down. It doesn't exist yet.
Especially now, crude oil is nearing $100 a barrel. It's the highest.
Oh my God. Highest what? Highest what?
Price since 2014.
Oh my God. Since 2014? Heavens.
That's not a small thing because you need energy to live. It's not negotiable. So how does having less...
Well, yeah, it is, actually. As a matter of fact, it is negotiable. As a matter of we can increase output here. We can work with our allies. We can also shift a bunch of our consumer base as far as oil and gas to renewables as well. We can expand our renewables within the United States. We can improve our nuclear standing. As a matter of fact, we have. We are currently energy independent. Those prices actually benefit U.S. output. Never mind.
Energy helped the United States. Joe Biden didn't even hint at an answer to that. He didn't answer any questions. He ran away the second he had finished reading the script. Back in real life, every person knows.
Did he? I think he walked away. Now, don't get me wrong. Biden can run. We've seen him run. He can even ride a bicycle. Two things I have never seen Trump do.
Thing will tank our economy faster than cutting off the supply of fossil fuels, because despite what you may have heard from noted energy experts like Sandy Cortez, a country of 340 million people can't run on windmills and solar panels. And even...
Yeah, we're not trying to do that. That's what net zero means. Net zero means you're offsetting, doesn't mean you're eliminating. But again, you're dumb. Why would you know that?
If we had enough of those, which we don't have the transmission lines to get that power to your house. And we won't for a long time.
Well, luckily, we passed an infrastructure bill.
So that's all a lie. But don't worry, says Kamala Harris. The administration has ways of fixing the spike in energy prices. They've got it under control because it turns out Kamala Harris is secretly in charge of global energy markets. No, just kidding. Harris has no idea what a barrel of oil costs. She doesn't know how natural gas is measured. What she knows about is diversity, and that's pretty much it. Though she does...
I see. By the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. I'm on every afternoon, 3 o'clock Pacific time for a couple of hours, and then I race off to do something else silly. There you go.
That everything is about to get a lot...
Like and subscribe, give a thumbs up.
...expensive for you, and so to warn you, she mentioned it today.
The president has already said Americans will be facing some economic fallout or some hardships. Can you explain to Americans what exactly will they face if this happens?
Sure. As the president talked about in his speech, we are aware that, again, when America stands for her principles and all of the things that we hold dear, it requires sometimes for us to put ourselves out there in a way that maybe we will incur some cost. And in this situation, that may relate to energy costs, for example.
So what are the principles we're defending here?
Democracy, rule of law, international borders, the fight against tyranny, being able to act across any of those borders at a whim anytime they want, that kind of thing. Also, by the way, the ability for the media to criticize leadership without getting chemicals sprayed in their face, a bag thrown over their head, and having them dragged out of the room. Something that I would think you might be for, Tucker.
Defending a regime that has arrested their main rival and shut down opposition media. What principles at stake here, apart from...
Well, it's Russian media. It's not opposition media. It's foreign interfering groups. It's the same way, like we don't do it in the United States. We just list the fact that RT is a foreign organization. Now, I differ on a few things. Like, I think that that's okay if we list organizations like that. I just happen to think that Fox, since it's owned by Rupert Murdoch, should be listed as a foreign interference organization. MSNBC is owned by U.S. companies and their shareholders. So obviously we have a bit of a point of contention there.
Supporting the Biden family's patron. But at least she's honest enough to say what's happening in Eastern Europe, quote, may relate to energy costs. That's a euphemism for good luck filling your truck this August.
If you have a truck, apparently. By the way, he's talking to Fox viewers who drive trucks to the mall.
Bother Kamala Harris? Maybe it does in the short term. Voters aren't going to like it in November. Their party will be punished. But they're doing it anyway. They're shutting down domestic.
Yeah, it's weird. She may not care. It may cost them votes, but it's weird that they're doing it on principle. Fucked up, isn't it?
Energy pipelines here. They're picking a fight with Europe's biggest gas supplier. So maybe there's something bigger at work here.
We're what? Sorry? We're what was that again? Who are we picking a fight with? We're doing what?
Pipelines here. They're picking a fight with Europe's biggest gas supplier. So maybe
we are picking a fight with Europe's biggest gas provider. See, that's the essence of this entire monologue, ladies and gentlemen. If you can boil it down to one idea, that, all the limbs and all the ornaments hang off the stalk of this, the base of this tree. What's the essence of this entire argument? The trunk of this entire thing is that Tucker Carlson and his handlers at Fox News and who are, I guess, at the Russian branch, want you to know that we, the United States of America, are picking a fight with Europe's biggest gas provider. It's us. We did this. We made Vladimir Putin surround Ukraine on three sides. We made him make a speech that sounds identical to stuff Hitler said about the Sudetenland and Poland. We did that. That's us picking a fight with them. Now, think for a moment, if you will, if post 9/11, Tucker Carlson felt like, in response to 9/11, that we were picking a fight with the world's biggest oil providers. Us. We were picking a fight. Yes, this is all Biden's fault. He's just doing this. This is all wag the dog. Now, how he managed to wag another dog's tail is anybody's guess. But it's very clear that this is the basis of Tucker Carlson's belief system.
Putting down domestic energy pipelines here. They're picking a fight with Europe's biggest gas supplier. So maybe there's something bigger at work here. Maybe they're thinking long term. Maybe.
Yes, we're picking a fight with Russia because we don't like fossil fuels. This is all part of the Green New Deal.
Not against rising oil and gas prices. Maybe they're for them. Maybe expensive energy would be good for the many renewable deals their friends and donors are invested in. We don't know the answer.
Well, no, you're just asking questions because that's what cowards do. And by the way, these are not questions he's asking. These are inferences he is he's hoping you will take. This is his implying through question-shaped phrases that this is exactly what's going on.
Know that all of us are about to suffer, so we hope that hating Vladimir Putin.
Oh, are we? Are we all going to suffer? Heir to the Swanson frozen dinner family fortune?
Worth it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
That's it. That's the whole thing, by the way. That's his opening take on this entire thing. Now, Dick Morris went on Stankfield and said Tucker Carlson is wrong on Putin. And I'm curious to see, I noticed that this clip was playing. I saw the phrase written out, but I haven't watched it. And we may have a broken clock moment with Dick Morris, but I'm curious how Stankfield will take this, because Stankfield, who still has his Who Framed Roger Rabbit haircut. Yeah, there he is. Same do. All right, just a little wind blown. Good times. That Stankfield is going to have to push back on this, because it might be in the inference may be allowed for, or an implication thereof might happen, that Joe Biden might actually be in the right in this.
Welcome back, everyone. We continue our coverage of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, something I told you would happen right
Yes, so did Joe Biden, and you criticized him for it.
After the Olympics. There are many reasons why all of us really should be concerned about this. It matters to all of you. I'll tell you why. Did you see what the markets have been doing? Tanking.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like, it matters to you because the markets will tank. Now, granted, all of Stankfield's friends are buying the dip right now.
Markets don't like global uncertainty, and that is...
Yes, and that's our fault, and therefore the market collapse is Biden's fault, because he's in charge of the uncertainty. If they'd have just let Russia have Ukraine, it would be certain that Russia had Ukraine.
Exactly what you get when a tyrant is allowed to have free reign. Your retirement accounts are going to go into the toilet. Oil prices...
Yes, if what? So again, if Vladimir Putin is allowed to have free reign, your retirement fund is going to go in the toilet. Therefore, Biden should just let him have free reign.
Also up. That will hit you even worse than it already is. And when oil goes up, the cost of everything rises. You thought inflation is bad now. Thanks to a weak Joe Biden and a bully Vladimir Putin, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, we don't have inflation because of monetary supply. We have inflation because of supply shock, and the cost of energy going up to the price it was in 2014. We've obviously weathered that before. It's not going to crash the economy, and we're facing deflationary pressures on every aspect of like from food to consumer goods over the course of the summer. So this will shake out
Trump
the middle.
Had Putin in check because Putin had no idea what Trump might do militarily.
No, Trump, quote unquote, had Putin in check because he was going to hand him Ukraine. He had already told him he would recognize Crimea, these areas, the Donbass and Luhansk areas. He was going to recognize those at the G7. So Putin thought, well, he'll win the second time because I'll help him out with my phony hard drive bullshit. And unfortunately for him, Giuliani was the head of the gang that couldn't shoot straight and fucked up the whole thing. And because of COVID, Trump who doesn't know his ass from his elbow when it comes to a genuine response, could have skated into re-election if he just didn't fuck it up. But he was that big a loser and he lost. And so now Putin, who is facing demographic collapse in Russia and a shrinking military, is either going to have to act militarily to take it now, or he'll never get another chance.
Worked. So when I see
he's also a racist and a lunatic, and sees this as his only the essence of the Putin doctrine.
Conservatives like Tucker Carlson, look, I have great respect for the man. I do. So don't get mad at me for saying this.
No, I doubt I'll get mad at you for I'll get mad at you for saying you have great respect for the man, because I don't believe you. I think he's a competitor and you fucking hate him because of the money he makes, and you think you do a better show than he does. But also, why? What's that respect based on? His great achievements as a third generation rich asshole?
But when he declares things like this, I've got to call it out as wrong for all of you and your friends.
I should say for the record, I'm totally opposed to these sanctions, and I don't think that we should be at war with Russia. And I think we should probably take the side of Russia if we have to choose between Russia and Ukraine. That is my view.
But by the way, man, he was chunky in 2019.
You hear Jim Jordan there? He was going to say but, because there is a lot of buts, okay?
Yes, that's true. There is a lot of buts. By the way, I'm glad he said that in 2019, but you've been sucking his butt since then, even though his position hasn't changed at all. But tell me again, if you totally respect.
None of this is a joking matter. I'm told he later said he was kidding about that. Didn't sound like.
No, he wasn't kidding. No, you weren't told that. Fuck off.
Here to help me make sense of all of this is the host of Dick Morris Democracy here on Newsmax, former advisor to.
Well, that's just sad. If you're calling on Dick Morris to help you make sense of things.
Since Trump and Clinton, Dick Morris.
I guess Devin Nunes was busy launching Troot.
Here, Dick, what do you make of that comment from Tucker Carlson?
You know, George Santana, the historian, said those who don't learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat it. He didn't mean in school. He meant in real life. And if you don't learn the lessons, that if you let a guy like Hitler or a guy like Putin gobble up territory after territory, he's not going to stop until you make him stop.
Yeah, but don't threaten Tucker Carlson with a good time. You're confused for a second on this route alone. Tucker is comfortable with the idea of a guy like Hitler or Vladimir Putin gobbling up territory. Tucker, as a rich asshole, thinks he's going to be on the inside track. That whatever negative happens ain't going to happen to him.
And Putin is bent on rebuilding the old Soviet Union, enslaving 100 million people again. And those who say it's not our problem are just so wrong. I mean, weren't you awake during the Cold War? Didn't you see Ronald Reagan battling to get that wall turned down and the people of Eastern Europe liberated? And don't you get that there's a...
Yeah, but again, Tucker Carlson is not convinced that that was a positive.
Well, coalition here against us of China, Russia, and Iran. If Russia gets away with this, the next step is China invades Taiwan. If China invades Taiwan and gets away with it, the next step is an Iranian nuclear weapon. And how would you like that kind of a world, Mr. Carlson?
He would like it. He would, because in his mind, Russia would run the place. China would effectively be the army and the production factory floor of that world, and it would be run by rich white assholes from New York.
Yeah. Especially if you're Israel, for crying out loud, the one true ally
or
in the
the
Middle
United
East brings
States.
some stability to all of this. Of course, or the United States for all of this. Look, I'm going to play one more clip. Everybody gets mad at me for going. I am not, folks, going after Tucker Carlson. I think it's a...
Yes, you are. Say you are. Say what he said was fucked up and go after him. You fucking coward. Like, this is so lazy. Criticize him. I thought we were the snowflakes. Right? Can you imagine if I was on it like, look, I have a lot of respect for Chuck Todd, but sometimes I'm not saying it's bad, but get the fuck out of here. If he steps that far off the res,
he has a great voice for conservatism, but on this, he's dead wrong.
Based on what?
Let me play this clip, shot number 12, about NATO, and I'm just confused at what he thinks here. Watch this.
So at this point, NATO exists primarily to torment Vladimir Putin, who, whatever his many faults, has no intention of invading Western Europe.
Which is bullshit, because Ukraine is part of Western Europe. Ukraine is not Russian territory. It's part of Western Europe. That's exactly what he's fucking doing.
Putin does not want Belgium. He just wants to keep his western border secure.
Yes, by invading Western Europe in terms of Ukraine. And all right.
Yeah. Morris, I'll give it to you.
Western border secure. That's just what Hitler said. Look, NATO has saved us from Russian aggression for 70 years. But for NATO, France and Britain would long ago, well, not to say Germany, would long ago have fallen to Russia. And we would be faced with one great big iron curtain across Europe. And NATO exists as a defensive alliance to stop somebody from taking over one of the...
Yes, and that's why Trump was against it. That is exactly why Trump was against it, because the whole idea that he was in Putin's pocket the entire fucking time gets more and more clear as you look at his attitude towards NATO and his attitude towards Ukraine. And that he was going to help him in a second term salami slice his way into Europe. That's what this is for.
And if it's a thorn in Putin's side, it's a thorn in his side on the way to a new invasion. Because if he sat at home and stopped invading other countries, NATO would not be a problem.
Yeah. Look, President Trump got tough on NATO. NATO had it.
Yeah, he got tough on it. He basically undermined it at every turn. You guys got to pay some stuff. We're not going to pay anything. You pay some stuff. Meanwhile, he's literally talking about dissolving it and the lack of necessity for it.
Problems, there's no doubt about it. But he made the rest of these NATO ally countries pay their fair share, and Russia listened. Dick Morris, the last word, if you can, about 10, 15 seconds.
Well, I think that we are in the middle of a catastrophe now in Russian aggression. And those who minimize it or excuse it and say Ukraine has its problems too are doing a vast disservice to freedom and trampling on the legacy of President Reagan.
Yeah, well, you're saying that like that's not the point. Tucker Carlson and all those guys are against that legacy. They thought it was a mistake. They're still pissed Hitler lost the war. Now their only hope for a giant white ethno-state is Russia. Man. But again, like what do you expect from these dudes? From Tucker. All right, now this is let's see. Yeah. Hannity is caught in the middle of this bullshit too. Because on the one hand, he's viewed as, because he's older, the anchor of the Fox nighttime lineup. But Tucker has been increasingly pushing him into the 11th hour, as it were. And it's as far as ratings go and the like. So he's one of these assholes who's convinced he has some sort of a news legacy, and not that he's a bloviating mouthpiece that will be soon forgotten the day he's off the air. He's next in the Bill O'Reilly Pez dispenser. Yeah, 1,100 people in the chat. Welcome, you guys. Holy smokes. Thanks for being here. Like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up. It's Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. I'm the only person who goes through these clips all the way through. They post this. This is a 14-minute and 51-second clip, and I got a little under 45 minutes to get it done. And I, God willing, can do it. We'll see.
A very defeated, frankly pathetic-looking Joe Biden. Well, he sauntered out to the podium 90 minutes late to deliver these very...
Yeah, gee, it's... and by the way, do you think Hannity ever had a problem with Trump being late for any of his COVID briefings or any of that kind of shit, which he was terminally late for all the time? No? Do you think he brought that up? Fuck, Trump's late again. He's late all the time.
Inspiring remarks. Take a look.
And if Russia goes further with this invasion, we stand prepared to go further as with sanctions. Who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries on territory that belong to his neighbors? Yesterday.
Well, just for the record, Tucker thinks that, and so does Sean Hannity. They both think that Putin should be able to make up countries out of thin air and then liberate them from the land around them.
The world heard clearly the full extent of Vladimir Putin's twisted rewrite of history, going back more than a century, as he waxed eloquently, noting that, well, I'm not going to go into it, but nothing in Putin's lengthy remarks indicate any interest in pursuing real dialogue on European security in the year 2022.
You know, no doubt, Vladimir Putin is just shaking in his boots. This is really beyond humiliating for our country. Now, of course.
Why? Did you see Putin's remarks? Did you see him arguing with his head of the KGB, or the GRU, I guess, head? Where the guy was like, yeah, I think we should recognize, I mean, I support the idea of it. I mean, do you support it or not? Yeah, but say it. Okay, I support it. You support doing it or you support it now? What's the right answer? I don't know now. Yeah, good Lord.
Did announce new sanctions today, but as one top Russian diplomat put it, Moscow doesn't give an atom shift about any sanctions.
Well, they will. And what are they going to say? What do you think? What do you think their response is going to be? Do you think they're actually going to come out and go, "Uh-oh"? What you're going to take their word over their comfort with what's going to happen? That's what you think? I mean, you're obviously cradling these testicles all the way to your audience.
Would they? Russia's main source of revenue is in the form of the production of oil and gas. China, they buy a tremendous amount of this gas, and so does Western Europe, our allies, because we're...
Right. But we don't exchange gas and oil for our values. By the way, this guy was all for invading the Middle East, just for the record, because we needed oil and gas, I guess, from them, so fuck invading
producing it for them and making money and creating jobs and lowering this 40-year high of inflation. Make no mistake, that oil and gas will continue to flow no matter what Russia does in Ukraine. In fact, much of Europe, especially Germany, well, they're dependent on Russian oil and gas.
Yeah, they just said no to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, as did we. We cut off insurance for it, so if it gets blown up or somebody pokes a hole in it, they got to pay for it themselves and fix it themselves. Tough shit.
Is a big part of this problem. Now, last year, even America, our country, Joe Biden's first year in office, imported a whopping 230 million barrels of oil from Russia, Putin's Russia. Joe's been begging Russia, OPEC repeatedly and being rejected.
Hold on one second. See if we can go back a little bit further. No. Let's try this. Let's see. Hold on. Oil imports, U.S. by year. There we go. See, it was really high in 2008. What was it? The 25,000 barrels in May of 2009. That was a bunch. And then it went way down, and there goes 2016. Then it humped along for a little while. And then, wait, who was president during this whole period? 2019. There you go. And then it took a big dive in May of 2020. Then it went back up. And then where's this? There you go. April 2020. There you go. So we're basically picking up this divot right here. Let's see let's see, monthly, annually. Let's look at annual. So let's see, 2020. There you go. 197,720 in, yeah. And then we dump down, hold on. Why is it? I guess it's averaging. That's averaging over the year. So 189 in 2019, 2018, it was 137. 2016, it peaked up, went down a little bit. Basically went down 30,000 barrels from 2016 to 2017. We were going back down because we were headed down to here, 120 in 2014. And then it went up over the course of 2016. Just buying and selling, that kind of stuff. And then we're still below the 2011 peak of 227,774, according to this, at this point. And then again, of course, after a divot in 2020. 2000, we got 26,000 barrels from them. Why don't we go back to that? How about that? How about during, let's go back to 2005 numbers. Everybody cool? Everybody cool with that? 149,000, top off at that? What do you think? I'm good with that. Hey, Gonzo, how are you?
Did repeatedly to produce more oil.
By the way, under Biden, this is January 2021 to November 2021. There you go. All right.
Drive down the price of oil and the price of a gallon of gasoline. We have more than they have. Why don't we produce it ourselves, Joe? This is madness. This is insanity. For years, many of the world's leaders have been perfectly happy to make Putin and Russia rich again.
Yes, we're perfectly happy doing that, which is why we're trying to wean ourselves off of all sources of
and a cheap
fuels.
supply of energy available for all. Now, in 2018, what we're about to show you is an epic face-to-face, complete beatdown with then-President Donald Trump rebuking European leaders, getting right in their face for their dependence on Russia for their energy, helping make Russia rich again, while we pay the bill for NATO to protect them from Russia. It's a long clip. It's worth watching.
Yeah, we've seen this part before. He didn't really give a shit.
Watching, ask yourself, do you think Joe
This was just, he was using this as a cudgel. He wasn't demanding that they not.
Biden could ever be capable of this level of passionate fighting for what is in our country's best interest? Here's
okay, so it's in our country's best interest that Russia gets, or that Europe gets its oil from where?
full exchange.
I think it's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia, where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to...
Yeah, he was trying to drive a wedge between Germany and the rest of NATO, basically slice them off because of Germany putting more into NATO than France did.
So we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting all of these countries, and then...
Yeah, and Germany has the singular pipeline. The rest of NATO doesn't. This was an attack on NATO.
Numerous of the countries go out and make a pipeline deal with Russia where they're paying...
Germany made the deal.
Billions of dollars into the coffers of Russia. So we're supposed to protect you against Russia, but they're paying billions of dollars to Russia, and I think that's very inappropriate.
Well, they're not. I mean, ultimately, Russia at that point was effectively playing nice. There was a sort of static point, and the idea was that if we're trading in oil and gas, they're not. That's the carrot part, and then NATO is the stick. So the idea was that if they're not going to shut off all this money that's coming in, and then they decided they were ultimately going to do that because Putin's a lunatic and Trump's not there to carry his balls anymore.
The former chancellor of Germany is the head of the pipeline company that's supplying the gas. Ultimately, Germany will have almost 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas. So you tell me, is that appropriate? I mean,
Well, again, the idea is that they think they're just trading in oil and natural gas with another country in the terms of Russia. It's the expansion of Russia. And then, of course, having a pipeline means you can shut it down. Blowing up trucks and boats full of oil and gas, that's way harder. It means killing people. Whereas a pipeline is a way that you can go, all right, we're not doing this anymore, and then you shut it off.
I think about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened. But Germany is totally controlled by Russia because they were getting from 60 to 70% of their energy from Russia and a new pipeline. And you tell me if that's appropriate, because I think it's not. And I think it's a very bad thing for NATO, and I don't think it should have happened. And I think we have to talk to Germany about it. On top of that, Germany is just paying a little bit over.
By the way, then talk to Germany about it. This isn't the other European leaders' problem. He's talking about the dissolution of NATO.
Whereas the United States in actual numbers is paying 4.2% of a much larger GDP. So I think that's inappropriate also. You know, we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting everybody.
Right, but it's not France's problem that Germany is making this deal, and ultimately it's not happening.
We're paying a lot of money to protect. Now, this has been going on for decades.
Also, this is not a protection racket. Being a bulwark against Russian expansion into Europe has value for us. They're a kleptocracy. They're a gangster kleptocracy. They're fucking dangerous.
This has been brought up by other presidents, but other presidents never did anything about it because I don't think they understood it, or they just didn't want to get.
No, they just figured they understood the trade-off. And they also understood the carrot and the stick concept, that Germany was acting as the carrot in this particular situation, but that they had to have a backup in case of them shutting the pipeline off, which is what they're doing, which is us, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia.
But I have to bring it up because I think it's very unfair to our country. It's very unfair to our taxpayer. And I think that these countries have to.
And it's not because Russia is giving me distinct orders to dissolve NATO by causing a lot of infighting.
Step it up, not over a 10-year period. They have to step it up immediately. Germany is a rich country. They talk about they're going to increase it a tiny bit by 2030. Well, they could increase it immediately tomorrow and have no problem. I don't think it's fair to the United States. So we're going to have to do something because we're not going to put up with it. We can't put up with it, and it's inappropriate. So.
By the way, this was his wedge to destroy NATO. That's what this is about. Yeah, unfair to our taxpayer. Meanwhile, he's flooding money into the military when he knows we're not going into a conflict. And he never got us out of Afghanistan, where we were dumping $300 million a day. And nothing materially changed. Any day during the Trump administration, he could have gotten us out. He could have implemented his magic plan and gotten us out of Afghanistan and saved the taxpayer hundreds of millions of dollars, followed by billions of dollars, followed by $1 trillion. But he didn't.
We have to talk about the billions and billions of dollars that's being paid to the country that we're supposed to be protecting you against. You know, everybody's talking about it all over the world. They'll say, well, wait a minute, we're supposed to be protecting you from Russia.
They are. Were they really? All over the world, everywhere he goes. You go down to Indonesia, you're talking to countries in Africa, you're talking to China, and you're like, wait a minute. You're protecting them again? Yeah.
But why are you paying billions of dollars to Russia for energy? Why are countries in NATO, namely Germany, having a lot?
This is what happens when your penis doesn't work and you think the entire world should be all stick.
Percentage of their energy needs paid, you know, to Russia and taken care of by Russia. Now, if you look at it, Germany is a captive of Russia because they got rid of their coal plants.
Oh, so they're a victim of it. So why don't we supply them with cheaper natural gas then and offset it entirely, or help them expand their nuclear capabilities, for example, to get them off of that, as opposed to, I guess, blaming them for being at the effect of it?
Rid of their nuclear They're getting so much of the oil and gas from Russia. I think it's something that NATO has to look at. I think it's very inappropriate. You and I agree that it's inappropriate. I don't know what you can do about it now, but it certainly doesn't seem to make sense that they pay billions of dollars to Russia, and now we have to defend them against Russia.
You know, NATO is an alliance of 29 nations, and there are sometimes differences and different views.
Yeah, NATO is an alliance of 29 nations. But because Russia, Germany has a pipeline to Russia, this is NATO's problem. We got to dissolve NATO. We got to get rid of NATO. NATO's not even there for a reason anyways. Why are we even funding NATO if Germany is going to do this? If they're going to get their oil and gas from a country we're not currently at war with, but we have a bulwark against their adventurism. And then, of course, yeah.
Also some disagreements on the gas pipeline from Russia to...
Oh, by the way, I forgot in my earlier reset, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, and I appreciate you being here. And I want to thank the trolls for being with us today. We've got a few more, like occasionally there's a dip. We don't have as many. And I feel bad for you guys because this isn't one of those areas where trolls freak us out or freak out the chat. We don't, pearl clutch and get worried and stuff, but we appreciate that you're here because every word you type tells the algorithm that I'm an engaging creator of content. And so thank you for that. Even still on Facebook as well. So, I get that a bunch of you are just cutting and pasting. I understand, because you can't have 5 computers open just, trying to defend Trump everywhere you go. It's got to be rough. So, I understand you got to cut and paste a little bit just to save your fingers. You don't want to retype that bullshit over and over again. So, and I appreciate that it's not organic work that you're doing here. I understand that. But I appreciate you being here nonetheless because you expand us into the algorithm in a way that the regular viewers can't. So thanks very much.
Germany is one issue where allies disagree, but the strength of NATO is that despite these differences, we have always been able to unite around our core task to protect and defend each other because we understand that we are stronger.
Look at Trump looking at the ceiling.
Than apart. I think that 2 world wars and the Cold War taught us that we are stronger together than apart.
But how can you be together when a country is getting its energy from the person you want protection against? Or
because they weren't currently at war. If Russia were to attack, obviously that turns right off. By the way, consider what Trump has said about China multiple times, constantly, and his own daughter. All of her goods are made in China. All the goods from Ivanka's companies comes from China, all of them. How can you defend your nation against the country that makes all the goods for your daughter's company?
The group that you want protection.
Because we understand that when we stand
yes, I do, Derek.
together also when dealing with Russia, we are stronger. I think what we have seen is that...
No, you're just making Russia richer.
Well,
you're not dealing with Russia, you're making Russia richer.
So I think that even during the Cold War, NATO allies were trading with Russia. Then there have been disagreements about what kind of trade arrangements we should go
I think
into.
trade is wonderful. I think energy is a whole different story.
I think trade is wonderful. Energy is a whole different story. What the fuck else are you going to trade with Russia? Cell phones? The fuck does Russia make?
It's a much different story than normal trade. And you have a country like Poland that won't accept the gas. You take a look at some of the countries that won't accept it because...
Yeah, but they're right up against it.
Want to be captive to Russia. But Germany, as far as I'm concerned, is captive to Russia because it's getting so much of its energy.
Well, yeah, except they're not, because the minute it's not like they rule against everybody else in NATO or in the Security Council of the UN and side with Russia on shit. They just don't. It's just one of their primary areas where they get oil and gas.
From Russia. So we're supposed to protect Germany, but they're getting their energy from Russia. Explain that. And it can't be explained. You know that.
President did that with no notes.
What? With no notes. What, he said the same thing 5 times. What do you mean? What the fuck do you mean, no notes?
Right in the face of the leader of NATO. And
Yes, he said a simple moronic concept over and over, saying that one country out of 29 in NATO gets oil and gas from Russia, where we're not currently at war with them, and getting energy from them is one of the few things they can trade. And isolating Russia and making them basically another North Korea, considering their size and their nuclear capability, is a little fucking dumb.
You think Joe Biden can do that?
Thanks, Audrey.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who you just saw in that video, we'll have more on that exchange later in the show tonight. But clearly Trump was absolutely dead on accurate. Now compare that to Joe Biden, the self-proclaimed...
No, he wasn't. Fuck off with this nonsense.
Tough guy, foreign policy expert. He can go toe-to-toe with Putin. He promised to stop Putin in his tracks. Well, today, Biden could barely form a coherent sentence as per usual and was unwilling and unable to respond to any questions about Vladimir. Take a look.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Now, you got to let me know when I'm supposed to stop here. But Sylvia? Where's Sylvia? There you are, Sylvia. How are you, Sylvia?
Do you think you may have underestimated Putin?
Thank you. Oh, and then by the way, he goes, they've got calls with European leaders scheduled. He's got staff that goes, yeah, we got to be somewhere. And by the way, Sean Hannity has someone in his fucking ear all the time saying, Sean, we got to go to break. Sean, we wrap it up on this one. We're 30 seconds out all the time. Every single show, like in a show he has done for years, Sean Hannity has somebody in his ear telling him what to do. And Biden's basically going, staff, you're going to have to tell me when we're done here because they've got calls to make with European leaders. Everybody's on a different time zone. They're coordinating a lot of shit. He's the president of the goddamn United States of America, which used to mean something to Sean Hannity and his followers. The United States used to mean something to Republicans. I don't know where this whole like shit on America nonstop came from. But it's like they assumed the left was doing it for a long time, and therefore it's just okay to do it. It's like a tennis match of anti-patriotism that they do constantly. And it's not, it's not something I'm comfortable doing. I wasn't doing it during Trump's time. I'm not going to do it during Biden's time. But it's amazing how comfortable these guys are with that. Now, what he did was that, like, let me know when we got to move on, but let's take some questions. And then he goes, Sylvia, who's up first? Okay, you wanted to ask a question. And then and then he cuts immediately. This is Sean Hannity manipulating the footage. Cuts immediately to them brooming people out of the room as if he's ignoring questions that were legitimately asked during the question period. That is doctored footage. This is what Trump would have referred to as fake news. Sorry, Paul, I swear. I use adult language on here. That's how it works. Thanks so much, Somewhere in Time.
We have a...
well said. You can't go after Biden after you doctor a clip. Your editors, watch how this is cut. Watch, look, they even flash cut between it. So he goes to this as if we're going to see footage from this.
Able to respond to any questions about Vladimir.
By the way, while he's responding to questions, then to footage of him walking to the helicopter, then...
All right. Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Now, you got to let me know when I'm supposed to stop here. But Sylvia...
Yeah, basically, he's giving them permission in the room to tell them when time's up. That's like CEOs do this, managers do this all the time. Jack, you're going to tell us when time's up for this meeting because we got to be someplace. And then you leave it up to them so you don't have to be the bad guy. You can go, yeah, we got to go. And then watch this. He goes, all right, who's on here? And then I'll ask.
Where's Sylvia? There you are, Sylvia. How are you, Sylvia?
And then flash cut to somebody asking a question as everybody's leaving when they're all done. See that where they're going, thank you. And then this is Sean Hannity coming out of a clip that he had manufactured for his show to give the illusion that there wasn't business being done and proper structure to a meeting and then some questions answered and then off you go. And then he cuts this piece together and then this is how he comes out on his own show. This is how he comes out.
We have a mumbling, bumbling buffoon as president. And tomorrow...
Dude, you just mumbled and bumbled. The fuck? And by the way...
We have a
Hold on. Check this. And by the way, yeah, this guy looks like he's mumbling and bumbling.
We have a mumbling, bumbling buffoon as president. And tomorrow, Joe has 0 events scheduled. None whatsoever. That doesn't...
He's got no events scheduled. Gee, you don't think he's like on the phone with world leaders discussing things with his security team? That's why. Fucko, Russia's invading Ukraine. What kind of ribbon cutting bullshit do you want him to do? You want him to sit in a fucking truck like Trump and go honk honk?
Exactly inspire confidence in the American people. But
yes, it does. Why the fuck do we need him to come out every day and handhold us through shit? What are you talking about? Saki's going to give information. She's going to come out and take questions. They're going to have a position on stuff, but they're actually dealing with reality.
Secretary Jen Psaki, she knows who to blame for Russia's aggression. Oh, let's blame Donald Trump. Really, Jen? Take a look.
Does the White House have any reaction to former President Trump calling Putin's move yesterday genius and smart?
Well, as a matter of policy, we try not to take advice from anyone who praises President Putin and his military strategy, which I believe is what happened there. So,
yeah, that's exactly what happened.
A bit of a different tactic, a bit of a different approach, and that's probably why President Biden and not his predecessor was able to rally the world and the global community in taking steps against Russia's aggression.
Hey, Jen, as a matter of tactic, this didn't happen under Donald Trump.
Well, no, he went to the G7 and said he would consider recognizing Crimea, and he thought Russia should be brought back in. It should be the G8 again, and couldn't make it happen. By the way, and since he couldn't make it happen, this shit happened. It didn't happen because he didn't think he'd have to fight for it. He thought he was going to be given it by Putin.
His aggression.
Hey, Jen, as a matter of tactic, this didn't happen under Donald Trump. Your boss, Joe, created this problem with his economic...
He created this problem. Yes, his economic decisions when he came into office to pass the American Rescue Plan and pass the infrastructure bill, that's what made Putin surround Ukraine with troops in Belarus, Crimea, the Black Sea, and then push them into Donbass and Crimea. I mean, that's what caused it. If Trump had been in office, Putin never would have surrounded the place.
Energy dependency policies. Joe is humiliating our entire country on the world stage. He's getting rolled by Putin. It is embarrassing, and he can barely string together a sentence, and I doubt he even knows what day of the week it is. Joe Rogan.
What day of the week is it, Sean? Somebody off camera. Hey, Sean, what day is today? What day is it? I would have paid $100,000 I don't have it, but it'd be nice. Pay $100,000 for somebody to just yell, Sean, what's today? What day is it? What do you mean? What's the date and what's the day of the week? What day of the week is it?
Even said Biden is basically a cognitive shell of his former self. Look at this.
Biden has been in politics his whole life. Like, he understands how the Senate works and so forth. So does that not count as experience?
It kind of does. It kind of does, but not as being, well, he...
By the way, this is the source. Sean Hannity is now referencing Joe Rogan's attitude towards Biden.
was vice president for 8 years, right?
Yeah.
But he's not a good example because he's basically a shell.
Yeah.
You know, cognitively. You don't see that this guy can't talk right anymore.
Yeah.
Go watch videos of him from 20 years ago. He was
And by the way, the phrase is not talk right, it's speak well.
He's a dummy. He said a lot of silly he lied about a bunch of things, but at least he was articulate.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that's why he likes Sean Hannity. Sure, he lies all the time and he says a lot of silly shit, but at least he's articulate. And by the way, we're supposed to give a fuck, like, why?
You showed videos from 2008, 2012, 2016. Yeah, everybody notices the obvious cognitive decline. Our friends.
Or, now that he's president, he's holding his tongue more frequently. And that looks to you, because you want America to decay on the vine, like he's a cognitive mess. Instead of him going, you know what, I'm going to hold my tongue right here. Let's try to keep everything organized. It's not it's not natural to me quite yet. I've been senator and vice president for a long time. I've been ready, fire, aim linguistically for a long time. But when you're president, it actually has meaning. And the last guy fucked things up so bad that I might want to temper what I'm saying every so often. It could be that. Or you could shit on the United States.
And unfortunately, our enemies also know it, and that includes Vladimir Putin. So now here's an important question. Where do Putin...
Yes. By the way, Putin walks out, and he saunters out. Biden stumbles out.
Territorial ambitions end, because in 2000...
Look how, Sean, please, don't talk over... We're getting a lesson in macho walking right now.
Now here's an important question.
Look at this.
Where do Putin's territorial ambitions end?
Look at that swagger. That's no. You can't even. I feel like I don't even know how to control myself. The machismo is overwhelming. The kind of the one arm swing to prove that it works.
Because in 2008, Putin invaded Georgia and set
his walking right out, standing in the middle of a birthday cake.
Puppet government. He also set up so-called client states in Moldova and Belarus.
In Moldova? Where is Moldova? You don't mean Moldova, do you? Client states in Moldova. I guess. Sure.
Right? And under Obama in 20...
Sorry, by the way, is he... he's not mocking Biden. Biden hadn't said Moldova on live television, has he? No?
Remember, that's when they annexed Crimea. Now he's rolling into eastern Ukraine with Kiev in his crosshairs. What's next? Based on his own public remarks, he seems pretty hell-bent on restoring the old Soviet Union. And recently, Putin added all 3 Baltic countries.
First of all, yeah, again, do you think that's fucking new? Do you think he just decided because Biden got elected, that was the turning point? All right, I'm going to rebuild the Soviet Socialist Republic. I want the old Russian Empire back to where it was. I've just decided. Why? Well, Biden took the oath on January 6th. I'm just inspired. Or was that the plan the whole fucking time? And Trump was supposed to help him by dismantling NATO, undermining it at every turn, and effectively like allowing Russia to come back into the G8 at the same time recognizing the breakaway parts of Ukraine as legitimately Russian. But then he lost. He fucking lost. Oops.
To his
Thank you, guys.
official list of so-called unfriendly nations. So what, are they soon now going to be targets of Vladimir Putin's territorial ambitions? And if they are, what's Joey going to do about it? One article put it...
Russia includes Baltic states in its list of unfriendly nations in the newspaper. Yeah. You think that shit's new?
Quote, Baltic citizens worry they are next on Russia's menu. Now remember...
Yeah, that's why we put troops there.
Baltic states are members of NATO. So does that mean the U.S. would be drawn into a war?
Yes, it does.
Certainly hope and pray not, especially with this guy as commander-in-chief.
But as you can see, this has the potential to spiral way out of control very quickly.
Well, then I would, if I were you, I would call Vladimir Putin and tell him this is all a mistake.
Weakness should not be an option. That's all I'm seeing right now.
Yes, weakness should not be an option unless they move into NATO countries, in which case we should bend over and let Russia do whatever the fuck they want. Hold on. There we go.
Moon River. It is time for Germany and NATO and Europe, our Western European allies, to break free of their dependence on Russian oil and gas. The only...
Fucko, they did. They turned down Nord Stream 2. Done.
Answer, the only country that has more natural resources, oil, gas, coal, that would be us, the United States. And if you really want to beat Putin, we're not going to have a shooting war with Putin. I don't want one. You shouldn't have one. We should flood the market with our own energy supply. That will help with inflation, create high-paying career jobs. It's going to be good for national security.
Yeah, dummy, we get that with oil, but natural gas is different. It's not you have to freeze it to turn it into a liquid, and you're not going to bring it all the way across the fucking Atlantic Ocean. That's why there's all this bullshit about pipelines. I know. I thank you guys for noticing.
It's time for Europe to get serious about NATO. They must pay their fair share. They must take their own defense seriously. They must deter future transgressions from Russia. They must stop making Russia and Putin richer than ever. And, of course, that would require bold leadership. And right now, the world is missing a U.S. president with a backbone. And sadly...
The fuck are you talking about? This is not the president that changed the RNC platform to not send lethal equipment to Ukraine. Trump is.
So Biden is not up to the job. Jennifer Griffin has been very...
Which, by the way, is exactly what Putin wants to hear, and Hannity wants to make America afraid to actually stand up to Putin because they think our commander-in-chief can't handle it. He absolutely can. Our leaders can handle it. But this constant undermining, it's the same thing with like the open border. We don't have an open border. We do not. But if you listen to Fox News, we do. And so if you watch Fox News in South America on any of these channels, or you see them play clips from Fox News, you're going to see them talk about the border being open.
Very, very articulate and expressing the urgency of this moment. And she'll join us in a moment. But a quick flashback. 1980, 42 years ago today, the U.S. men's hockey team, remember they upset the heavily...
Yes. Do you believe in miracles? Right. We beat the Russians. Yes.
Russian team.
They still have a problem.
Ultimately won gold. Remember the hit movie, Miracle on Ice? Just to remind you.
It wasn't called Miracle on Ice. It was just called Miracle. Miracle on Ice. I mean, maybe that's the one they had at the Garden.
Olympic ice arena. Come on, baby. The U.S. Huge underdogs. Leading the Soviet Union.
42nd anniversary of the Miracle on Ice.
Johnson over to Ramsey. League of left and a bit sick by Ramsey. McClanahan is there. The puck is still loose. 11 seconds. You got 10 seconds. The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Cope. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
Yeah, I just watched that with Ethan yesterday, and it's great. Also, what the fuck? And then he's like, look, the wall came down.
42 years ago tonight, Al Michaels, in what was one of the most epic sports calls of all time.
And now, years later, here's Sean Hannity shitting on America. It's the exact opposite.
Believe in miracles. We need one now.
Apparently not, according to Sean Hannity.
Years later, the Berlin Wall would come crashing down. The Cold War would be over. We bankrupted Russia.
Right. And then now you're pushing back against everything that Reagan accomplished, supposedly.
The former Soviet Union, and here we are under Biden fighting some of the same old battles with the same old foe. Hey, Sean Hannity here.
gee, it's almost like the people who said they beat it only beat it in outwardly and let the substructure still exist. Crazy. All right, I got to sign off. I got to go. I got to sign over. I'll see you guys later. I got to do a show. I'm going to go on the Shout It Out Loud podcast. And you're awesome and everything. And also, go Joe Biden. Yay, America. Fuck you, Sean Hannity. There you go. How's that? Good times. All right. See you guys tomorrow.